Alright, what up everybody? It's your boy Akeen and welcome to today's vlog. Continuing with all my top 5 prospects for the 2014 NFL Draft. Today, I need to talk about my top 5 offensive tackles. Now, I believe I have some studs for you this season. I think this is going to be a good competition to see who will be the #1 offensive tackle selected this year. I think the team in particular who's going to be looking at this position is the Rams at pick 2 of this year's draft. Now, I'm going to start off my top 5 from Notre Dame. Zach Martin, 6'4", 305 pounds. Now, yes, that's the ideal size. Wish he was just a little bit taller and bulkier, but I still think he's a good player and also a debatable player at that. And I'll explain in just a second. But first, talk about his strengths. He's very good at keeping his feet underneath as well as keeping his butt low to the ground. Good technique that helps him with leverage against taller and bigger defenders. Also, he shows a little athleticism than what I expected. Now, during Senior Bowl practices, he was actually going pretty well head-to-head against Aaron Donald out of Pittsburgh, who should be a good draft selection at the defensive tackle position. And he had a couple of good performances against him during drills for Senior Bowl practice during that week. Now, I did mention about his height and his weight. That's a little bit of a lack of that, and I think he might even go and have to convert at the guard position in the National Football League. He might have a future as a guard as opposed to an offensive tackle, but he has no experience as a guard, so that's a little bit of a concern. But I still think he has decent technique. I still think he could play the offensive tackle position, even though he might have to convert to guard. At number 4, I'm gonna have to go with Big Cyrus Khan-Quantrill out of Alabama. Now, this guy is very aggressive and excellent run blocker. I do like his footwork, very light in his feet, and he shows good flexibility, broad shoulders, good size at 6'5", 310 pounds, a little bit bigger than Zach Martin, more than what you're looking for, and he helps sustain good blocks when locked. Now, some weaknesses, he's kind of sloppy in his sliding technique as far as pass blocking, but I think he could just tweak that up just a little bit, and he tends to drop his head sometimes once he has contact, which is not good because defensive ends or any type of defender could just use their hand and swat his head down to the ground, making him lose contact and focus on keeping within and locked into his defender. He needs to work on that, but I still think he still show a little bit of improvement starting in 2013, keeping his head up just a little bit, but he sometimes tends to drop his head down, and that's why I have him at number 4. But I still think he could be a first-round selection. At number 3, I'm going to have to go with Taylor Lewin out of Michigan. Now, he definitely reminds everybody of Jake Long when he was at Michigan Wolverine. The same number 77, but he's not as good as Jake Long, but I think he's still an excellent first-round selection, and especially in the mid-picks of this year's in the first round. Now, like I said, you immediately think of Jake Long. He very relentless, has a nasty attitude, a mean streak, great blocking ability, and he shows that he's a leader just like Jake Long. And I do like this kid a lot. I think he could be a good, reliable player at this position. Now, a couple of things he needs to work on. He needs to cut down the penalties. He sometimes commit penalties, which is a major concern because if he commit penalties, that causes more problems for the offensive to drive the ball down the field. Just needs to cut that a little bit, and he also still needs to tweak things up and improve in his technique and instincts, like his jab steps. He needs to work on, as well as he sometimes stands straight up when blocking, and which is a bad thing because defenders can just run all over him and keep him off balance. He just needs to improve those just a little bit. Now, at number 2, I'm going to have to go with Greg Robinson out of Auburn. Now, this is the debate here because a lot of people have Greg Robinson bumped up at number 1. But the reason why I have him at number 2 is because of pass blocking. I believe that he's definitely the best run blocker of my group, but I still think he needs to prove a little bit as a pass blocker because Auburn didn't do too much passing. They were more of a run team, the #1 rushing team in the nation, all mainly due off of his skills. But I still think he just needs to develop more as a pass blocker. Only 2 years starting experience at Auburn, and I think because of he's still developing as a pass blocker, I had to bump him at number 2 because due to the fact that the National Football League is more of a pass-happy league, and that's why I had to bump him down. But he's definitely a good player with a lot of potential to become a phenomenal blocker overall, and I still think he has a clear shot of going number 2 to the St. Louis Rams because of his run block ability. I think he could pass block well enough to protect Sam Bradford Bradford, but help open up lanes in the run game and help lead Zach Stacy, their leading running back from last season, to more yardage and touchdowns, and he could definitely help with the run game, and I still think he could go number 2 overall. And at number 1, I'm going to have to go with Jake Matthews out of Texas A&M. Now, we have another Matthews entering the National Football League. He is the son of Hall of Famer Bruce Matthews, and there's a lot of great Matthews that came into from this league. I already mentioned Bruce, but everybody already knows Clay Matthews out of the Green Bay Packers, and he also has an uncle who played in the National Football League as well for many years. Now, he's very quick off the snap. He has good mobility to control his opponents. That's what I like about him a lot. He's a great pass blocker, much better than Greg Robinson. He was an All-American, a 2-time All-SEC performer, and he is a terrific run blocker, which is a good trait about him. Now, a couple of weaknesses. He lacks the ideal foot speed and balance. He sometimes loses his step a little bit. Also, he locks his knees once he's approached in a strong bull rush approach, which is a tough thing, and that's why he has those knee braces. It helps protect him, but it's not too good when he locks his knees because it causes him to go off balance. He just needs to keep those legs moving and using his legs to keep good leverage. He just needs to work on that just a little bit, but I think he will get that all straightened out headed towards this league, and a good coach at the offensive line position for any team in this league. Now, I have a couple honorable mentions. First, Antonio Richardson out of Tennessee. Now, this kid is another big kid, 6'6", 327 pounds, as well as Morgan Moses out of Virginia, 6'6", 335 pounds. But the reason why they're not in my top 5 is because of their speed. Richardson runs a 5'2", while Moses runs a 5'3". If they were just a little bit faster, they probably most likely will be in the top 5 of my at this position for this league's draft. But I still think there's going to be some great players in the second round of this year. Now, my sleeper this season, I'm going to have to go with Vanderbilt's Wesley Johnson. He has good mechanics, great technique, but he's a little bit undersized at 6'4", 295 pounds. If he was just a little bit bigger, at least over 300, at least 310, I think he could crack at least the top 15. But I still think he should be a good pick in the later rounds. And yes, he needs to bulk up just a little bit, but I still think he's a good, reliable pass blocker. Johnson was a good pass blocker for the Commodores and helping get the quarterbacks to get to the ball to the star receiver in Jordan Matthews. I do like this kid a lot. I think he could be a good sleeper in the mid-rounds, 5th or 6th round of this year's draft. Now, next time I'm going to catch you guys is on Wednesday, where I will finish things up, or almost finish things up with the offensive line, give you my top 5 guards. Thank you for watching today's blog. I'm your man, Akeem McCall from Pro Football Exclusive. Be easy.